going to do something different here. I want to get some facts out there, education on intersex. This is the INTERSEX United Nations fact sheet. I'll have a link for it. So my shirt, that's a fact jack. So I'm going to get education out there. I'm dyslexic, but bear with me as I read off this whole fact sheet just to get the information out there. So here we go, bear with me. What does intersex mean? Alright, intersex people are born with sex characteristics including genitals, gonads, and chromosome patterns that do not fit the typical binary notions of male or female bodies. Intersex is an umbrella term used to describe a wide range of natural bodily variations. In some cases, intersex traits are visible at birth, while others they are not. They are not apparent until puberty. Some chromosome intersex variations may not be physically apparent at all. According to experts, between 0.05 and 1.7% of the population is born with intersex traits. It would estimate to be bigger, but just people don't talk about it because there's a lot of shame going on with this. So this is important that I get all these facts out to you. Education is never wasted. So, being intersex relates to biological sex characteristics, and it is distant from one person's sexual orientation or gender identity. An intersex person may be straight, gay, lesbian, bisexual, asexual, or many identify as female, male, both, or neither. And that should be respected because that's who they are. As I said before, I am one intersex individual and we're all different. So bear with me, I'm going to keep reading off the sheet. Physical integrity. It has become common practice to subject intersex children to unnecessary surgical and other procedures for the purpose of trying to make their appearance conform to binary sex stereotypes. These often irreversible procedures can cause permanent infertility, pain, incontinence, loss of sexual sensation, and a long life of mental suffering, including depression. Regularly performed without the full, free, informed consent of the person concerned, who is frequently too young to be a part of the decision-making. These procedures may violate their rights to physical integrity, to become free from torture and ill treatment, and to live free from harmful practices. Some such procedures are frequently justified on basis of cultural and gender norms and discriminate beliefs about intersex people and their integration into society. Discrimination attitudes can never justify human rights violations, including forced treatment and violations of their right to physical integrity. States have the duty to combat harmful stereotypes and discrimination, rather than enforcing them. Such procedures may sometimes also be justified on the basis of alleged health benefits, but these are often proposed on the basis of weak evidence and without discussing alternative solutions that protect physical integrity and respect anatomy. Unfortunately, such beliefs and social pressures are often reflected by the doctors, as well as parents of intersex children, who may encourage and give their agreement to such procedures, despite the lack of medical education necessary or urgency, and despite the fact that such procedures may violate human rights standards. Agreement is frequently given in absence of information on the short and long-term consequences of such surgery and lack of contact with peers, including intersex adults and their families. Many intersex adults exposed to such surgeries as children emphasize the shame and stigma linked to attempts to erase their intersex traits, as well as significant physical and mental suffering, including as a result of extensive and painful scarring. Many also feel that they were forced into a sex gender categorized that do not fit them. These surgeries are not, this is why this education needs to be out there. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to keep reading and help get the facts out there. Given their irreversible nature and impact on physical integrity and anatomy, such medical unnecessary solicited surgery or treatment should be prohibited. Intersex children and their families should receive adequate counseling and support, including from their peers. Discrimination. Intersex persons are often subjected to discrimination and abuse if it becomes known that they are intersex, or if they have perceived not to conform to gender norms. Anti-discrimination laws do not typically ban discrimination against intersex persons, leaving vulnerable and discriminatory practices in range of settings, including access to health services, education, public services, employment, and sports. Health professionals often lack the needed training, knowledge, and understanding to take into account the specific health needs of the intersex person. Provided appropriate health care and respect of the anatomy and rights of intersex persons to physical integrity and health. Some intersex people also face barriers that discrimination if they wish to or need to amend sex markers on their birth certificates and other official documents. Intersex athletes face specific set of obstacles. There have been several cases of female intersex athletes who have been disqualified from sport competitions on the basis of their intersex traits. However, being intersex of itself does not entitle better performance, whereas physical variations that do affect performance, such as height and muscle development, are not subjected to such restrictions. Intersex people should be protected from violations of their rights. Whenever such violations occur, they should be investigated and alleged perpetrators prosecuted. Victims should have access to effect remedy, including redress and compensation. Intersex people also consulted in the development of legislation and policies that impact on their rights. Again, thank you for bearing with me. Just getting this facts out here to you. Back to the sheet. Positive developments. In 2013, Australia adopted a sex discrimination amendment, Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity, and Sex Statutes Act, the first law to include intersex statutes as a standalone prohibited ground of discrimination. The Australian state also has carried out an official inquiry into the involuntary or coerced sterilization of intersex people. In 2015, Malta adopted a Gender Identity, Gender Expression, and Sex Characteristics Act, the first law to prohibit surgery and treatment on sex characteristics of minors without informed consent. It has also prohibited discrimination on basis of sex characteristics. So, action points. This is very important. I hope everybody can get this information. Prohibit medical unnecessary surgery and procedures on sex characteristics of intersex children. Protect their physical integrity and respect their anatomy. Ensure that intersex people and their families receive adequate counseling and support, including from their peers. Prohibit discrimination on basis of intersex traits, characteristics, or statutes, including in education, healthcare, employment, sports, and access to public services. and address such discriminations throughout ensure human rights violations against intersex people are investigated, alleged, and proceed. I'm going to do that one again. Ensure that all human rights violations against intersex people are investigated and alleged the perpetrators prosecuted, and the victims such as violations have access to effective remedy, including redress and compensation. National human rights bodies such research and mentor the human rights situation of the intersex people. Enact laws to provide for facilitate procedures to amend sex markers and birth certificates and official documents of intersex people. Provide health care professionals with training on the health needs of and human rights of intersex people and their appropriate advice and care to give parents and intersex children. Being respectful of intersex persons' anatomy, physical integrity, and sex characteristics. Ensure that members of the judicial, immigration officers, law enforcement, healthcare, education, and other officials and personnel are trained to respect and provide equal treatment to intersex persons. Ensure that intersex people and organizations are consulted and participate in development research, legislations, and policies that impact on their rights. So, include the voices of intersex people and groups in newspapers, TV, and radio coverage. Give an objective and balanced pictures of intersex people and their human rights. Do not make assumptions about the sexual orientation or gender identity of intersex people. I say, your friends, and other individuals can make a difference too, as you can spread my video and keep getting this education out there. Speak out when you see any form of discrimination or violation against intersex people or anybody. Be a decent human being. Remember that intersex people may have any sexual orientation and gender identity. Again, we deserve rights just as anybody else. So, thank you for staying with me, and I have a link to this national fact sheet put on by United Nations. I appreciate all the help that I've been seeing, and take care. Thank you for listening.